Welcome back to Aspirations, career advice for your life. I'm your host, Mina, Slee, joined by my co-host, Marina, Salah. And we're sitting today with another professional, Mr. Sherif Bashara. Mr. Bashara is a certified immigration attorney in New York and has done a tremendous job representing people in need. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, guys. That's a tough question. I think my career trajectory kind of changed when I went to college. My initial major was not to become an attorney. I actually wanted to become a pharmacist, but then I decided it wasn't the thing for me. And then I wanted to become a cop. And then I also found out that this is not the thing for me. And this is when I just ended up going into law school. And it turned out to be one of the best things I've ever done. I think the experience, the knowledge, and it satisfied a big part of me in actually helping people and helping them from different sides of life to take them from one place to take them to a better place in their lives.
That's awesome. And it's really cool because people think, oh, like when I decide on my career, that's it for life. It's really cool to see that you transitioned a couple of times until you found your calling, which is really awesome to hear. What was the pathway to get into your career? What's the pathway to becoming an attorney?
Sure. To become an attorney, first of all, you have to go through college. So you have to finish your bachelor's in science and arts. There's kind of like two different ways. If you want to become a patent attorney, your bachelor's or your undergrad should be in a science major. If you want to be any other type of attorney, then your bachelor's could be in anything. Once you finish your 4 years of college degree, then you have to take the LSAT, which is the law school admission test. You have to score at a certain level that would allow you to go into schools of your choice. Then after that, you go to school for 3 more years, and this is actually law school. And then after law school, you have to sit for the bar exam. And the bar exam is 2 days per state. So if you want to get admitted into New York and New Jersey, which most people do, then you would have to take the test for 2 days for each state. But we get lucky because the 2 states are right next to each other. So we can combine 1 day and you only get licensed in 2 states for 3 days, which is a good deal.
That's awesome.
As far as I remember, I think it was more of like 7 hours each day. First day, it was all questions where you had to write a lot of information. They ask you questions, they give you fact patterns. Second day was multiple choice, and then the third day was fact patterns for the other state. So I finished my college degree in 4 years. One of my goals was, because I changed my major 2 times, I wanted to make sure that I still finish college in 4 years. And it is doable. I know many undergrad students, if they start in one way and then they decide to change and do something else, sometimes there's a lot of time that's lost in the middle, but I think everybody can push. It doesn't matter if you're working. I was working full time and I was able to still finish college in 4 years.
It's very impressive. On average, how much does a student graduate in loans from?
So that depends on a couple of things. First thing, it depends if you went to undergrad to a college that requires you to take loans. As far as we know, it doesn't really matter if you go into a very expensive college. A lot of your admission to law school depends mainly on the LSAT score and your GPA in college. So even if you go to an undergrad college that's very expensive, it might not help as much as you think when it comes time for you to apply for law school. When I went to law school about 12 or 14 years ago, tuition was, I think, somewhere around $45,000. Now I hear it's a lot more than that, like maybe in the 60s and the 70s. So that's one thing I would always advise young people. Keep that in mind. It's very easy to just take loans because it's an application and you just sign and then the money is deposited into your account. But you got to think about the number that you're going to have to start repaying 6 months after graduation. If it's in the upper 200s or $300,000, it is a lot of money and it's a big monthly payment. So it depends on what type of attorney you are and what kind of law you practice. I kind of took a different career trajectory where I started my career with the US government. I worked as an asylum officer, and then I moved up the ranks within immigration to become an immigration services officer, and then a section chief, and then a director. And then I decided to go into the private sector. As an attorney, your day-to-day is based on, number one is, do you have any court hearings? This is the number one priority. Then after that comes meetings with clients. A lot of it are phone calls or meetings in the office. I like to keep time every day to actually work on cases myself. Even though I have paralegals and attorneys that work in the firm, I still want to do the work myself and check the work myself. And this is something that's important to keep up your legal skills, to keep up your knowledge and your awareness, because you're not just involved in the high level parts of running a firm, but you have to also be involved into the day-to-day operations of everything.
I love the fact that you stay like committed to working on cases, because you probably stay sharp like that. It's very cool. Do you believe that you have to be passionate about your job? I know some people are like, just clock in and out. I want to get out of here. I don't really care. I get a salary. I'm happy. But what do you think? Like, do you think you need to be passionate?
I think you will succeed if you are passionate. And I think you will surpass anything that you imagined that you would reach if you are passionate. I never had the mentality of clocking in or out. Even though now I can work up until 12 a.m., 1 a.m., and I could get up at 4 or 5 a.m. and start working. Sometimes you have to get out of the mindset that there's set hours and it's like a 9 to 5 in order for you to succeed. Of course, you can get by, but I think this is the choice that each person has to make. Do you just want to get by and be an average or just like everybody else in your field, or you want to surpass and you want to succeed and continue to move forward? And I think passion, believing in what you do, and I think there is part, like a satisfaction part about each job. To me, the satisfaction is giving somebody status, taking somebody out of removal proceedings, and giving somebody a new place to live and for them to call home. Certainly. I think as far as the demand, yes, immigration is an ever-changing field. People and immigrants continue to come to the United States every single day. And the needs change based on the political atmosphere, based on the administration. As far as being bilingual, it is extremely important. And someone who is bilingual definitely has a leg over somebody else who is not. Because you're dealing with individuals whose English is not their first language, many of which just arrived from their country. And speaking their language, this is one of the best ways that for you to connect with them. I have clients from other cultures who don't speak English, and we would have interpreters, and communication works, but it's often challenging and more difficult for me and for them.
Right.
We still help them, but helping your own people, having that bilingual ability to speak and to communicate, it definitely sets you apart from other people.
What's one thing you love about your job, and what's one thing you dislike about your job?
One thing I love about my job is when you win a case. You see the relief in people's eyes when you deal with someone who's been in the system for 10, 12 years. They're living in limbo. They don't know if they're going to stay in the US or they have to pack and go back to their country.
Right.
Being part of their American dream and giving them the ability to stay and live in the United States and feel safe, that they don't have to look over their shoulder, they don't have to fear being deported, they're going to stay with their family and friends and loved ones, is probably one of the best or the most satisfying feelings. One thing I dislike about my job is, as an immigration attorney, you're often dealing with the government, and there's often bureaucracy and inability to reach people. and getting through to someone, or changing of a procedure without any notice, or trying to find someone or get someone on the phone, this is definitely one of the most challenging slash things I don't love about my job. I think there is a few things that you can do, and I always remind myself of this every day. I always, and this is what I tell my clients, yes, we're running a business, but we're also humans. There is a financial part. You have to understand that in certain fields, you may be dealing with individuals who don't have the ability to pay. There is part of it where you can give them a break. There is part of it to just be compassionate with them. And sometimes people just want to talk to you because they feel like by talking to you, they will have a solution, and they just want to hear the assurance from you. Like, for example, today, right before I came here, I was talking to this couple. Their situation is slightly different than like the normal Egyptian community. The wife worked overseas, and there is a statutory requirement for somebody who is accompanying their US citizen, and if they're working overseas for the US government, they don't have to stay the 5 years or the 3 years before they get their citizenship. There's one requirement in that statute that after the naturalization interview, that this person has to travel back and live with their spouse. Now, in this case, this person came to the US, they had their interview, and 2 days before the interview, her overseas job has been terminated, and now she's gonna live in the US. So the officer asked the person, well, are you gonna go back to live with your spouse? And he told her, no, my spouse is here. So now they might deny their case. We don't know if that case is gonna get denied or no. And by just me talking to them, walking them through the process, explaining it to them, and I was a section chief for the naturalization section in New York for 3 years. I've never seen this before. In order for all the times to work together this way, it's very, very unlikely. But I think what they needed to have is just have a conversation. Just have the assurance that even if things don't go their way, there is at least a way for us to fight, and that there is hope. And I think this is what I try to communicate with people every day, and try to just make them feel it and just live it. So even if their situation is bad, there are things that we don't have control over. And at least for them, that they're able to accept it, and accept it graciously, I think that's an achievement for me. Even if they don't accept it and see it right now the same way it is. I hope so
Yeah,
too.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, we should be praying for them. And I guess just to wrap, because a lot of students coming into these fields want to kind of understand, like, the likelihood of what they'd be making. So what is kind of an expected salary? Overall, there's so many attorneys.
Sure.
So I guess we'll specifically focus on immigration. Coming out, what can somebody expect to make, and maybe an upper bound of what people would expect to make on average?
Sure. So I think graduating from law school, I think there is a huge learning curve, right? There's two types of attorneys, or two types of immigration attorneys. There's one type where they go into government service, like where I started my career. And for that, believe it or not, coming out of law school, you will probably make more money in the beginning of your career.
Wow.
As far as numbers, I would say they could start somewhere between maybe 90,000 up to maybe like 160, 170. Okay? If they decide to go into the private sector right away, the salaries are lower if you don't have experience.
Right.
The starting salary, I would say somewhere between maybe 60 and 80.
Yeah.
Until they get that experience. If they decide to go on their own, then there is no ceiling. It's basically how much you're willing to put into work, and how much energy, effort that you're willing to put in, into expanding your own firm and your own practice. But that's kind of would give you like a ballpark of how much they would make if they decide to go into a
Yeah,
company.
at that point, you're building your own business. There's no ceiling. Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yes. So I think it's very complex for somebody to graduate from law school and go straight to become an immigration attorney. It takes a lot of time to learn the procedure. The law is also complex, but I think the procedure is very, very complicated. Many times you know what you want to do, you just don't know how to get there.
Right.
My advice would be, if people are able to get a government job, learn immigration from the government. The experience you're going to get from the government is invaluable, because every immigration petition is presented to the government.
Right.
So if you know what the government is looking for, if you decide to go into the private sector in the future, you'll know exactly what to say, and you'll know exactly what to do and what not to do. And to me, this is the best possible experience somebody could start with. The last thing that I would say, even within immigration, there's different parts. There's immigration attorneys that specialize in business immigration. There's immigration attorneys that specialize in family immigration. There's immigration attorneys that specialize in removal proceedings. And I think people or attorneys, future attorneys, they would have to kind of like pick if they want to specialize in a specific branch of immigration versus the other as well.
We appreciate you being with us, and thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you on another episode of Aspirations. See you soon.